Hey, new patient group and Right Chat Nation. Welcome inside the broadcast booth. Brian right here, and welcome to Season 5, Episode number 4. 2022, rolling along. Hope everything is going well for your practice. A lot of you have reached out to me and say, look, we're dealing with a slower economy. Things aren't as great as they were last year. Now, for a lot of the new patient group clients, shout out to you. Even though the down economy is happening to a lot of people right now, you are kicking butt. Now, there's exceptions to that. And today's podcast is for those exceptions, as well as all the listeners out there that have sent me messages about how this economy has really slowed down their practice, what to do, and things like that. I've noticed five similar traits. That's where I got the title today, is 5 essentials, 5 keys to dominating or thriving during a down economy, or not even necessarily thriving. Sometimes during a down economy, a great thing to do is just break even. Make sure you don't go backwards. And I have seen these 5 things for the practices that are absolutely killing it. So many of the new patient group clients, shout out to you, coming off your best month, not March ever, best month ever period back in March, where a lot of the industry is struggling. So props to you. But these 5 things I'm going to be talking about today are very similar traits that the practices that are thriving right now, even though the economy is slower, all have in common. And it's something we are adamant about, these 5 things with new patient group that really touch on a lot of different areas of the practice. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about that today. Also, a lot of really cool upcoming events that I want to share with you, just kind of give a state of the union where you can come see me speak, where New Patient Group's going to have a booth. A lot of cool things happening there. I'll update you after we get through this introduction. Looking forward to a great one today. I think, we try to, and when I do these, I try to sit behind the mic and I've got a whole host of ideas. And I think probably 4 seasons ago, I probably said, hey, look, this topic is coming. And then 3 seasons go by and I haven't done it because I've tried to put a topic based on where the industry is at. Now, we don't always do it that way, but I wanted to do one today because, like I said, so many of you have been shouting out, hey, economy's slower. We're seeing the effects, maybe less calls, lowered conversion, things like that, maybe a combination of both. So I wanted to hit on that today and hopefully it hits home with you and helps all of you out there. Looking forward to a great one. Before we get started, let's fire at the music.
A practice on almost every corner, and the modern day consumer viewing you as a commodity. So why is it the best time in history to own a practice? The answers are all right here. Welcome to Season 5 of the New Patient Group Audio Experience, a business, marketing, and life coaching podcast dedicated to helping doctors dominate the new economy. And now your host, he's the founder and CEO of New Patient Group, managing partner of Right Chat, and a trusted motivational speaker for the finest companies in the world, Brian Wright.
Hey, everybody, welcome in. Looking forward to diving into these 5 essentials, like I said in the front end. A lot of you, anytime that you really care about people, anytime you wake up and really your whole life is wrapped around helping other people. I talked to my wife about this the other night, and it's why it's important, business owners listening out there, you need to have a getaway, you need to have a release, because usually as business owners, the most successful businesses, you go into business to solve a problem or problems. And as you solve those problems for people, you help change their lives. Now, we all do that in different ways. I do it through maybe helping you improve your personal life, maybe your business life. New Patient Group is your marketing, your business, your team training. Maybe some of you listening out there, a lot of you changing lives because you're moving teeth into a more beautiful position, whatever it may be, whatever type of clinician you happen to be, we all change lives. But whenever you change lives, there's something with that is that your whole life is really inevitably for other people. And it's important that you have a getaway. And because these things, when I hear people, really the point of me just talking about this is when I hear people are struggling and the phone isn't ringing as much, conversions down, et cetera, whatever it may be, it hurts me. Like I go into, okay, I'm not going to go to sleep until we figure this out mode, because I don't want you hurting. And that especially goes out to the New Patient Group family members. And like I said at the front, the majority of you during down economies kick everyone's butt too, but there's still some ones out there that aren't doing as well as you did last year. So those are things that the team and I, we strategize, we come up with new ideas. I don't go to sleep. It's just one of those things because our world is devoted to all of you. And I hope you know how sincere I am whenever I say that. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Nobody is, but we sure as heck try to be, because it's a big responsibility that we do not take lightly, being trusted by all your practices and all the listeners out there. What we talk about back here is we're passionate, and we hope it helps you. And today's going to be a good one if you go and are able to shift some of the mindsets that a lot of you probably have during down economic times, or even when the economy is good and you're struggling. This isn't just for a down economy. This is if your practice is struggling, or just even if your practice is doing well. These are things that are going to help you do even better while lessening your advertising expenses and other headaches that just come with being a business owner. So look forward to diving in. Little state of the union, a little update of what's going on. We got a lot of really cool things happening. So the AAO is coming up in Miami, and that is in May. The Friday before the AAO officially starts, it starts on a Saturday. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but before that Saturday, that Friday, I am doing an all-day practice workshop. It's going to be about from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for OrthoFi. Looking forward to that. Now, I have invited Dr. Bob Skopak, who a lot of you have heard his name from me talking around the country. He has done many, many different things, really as one of our model clients. We have many others, but he is one that has just done it the best. And I like using his name, and he's going to be speaking with me. And it's going to be a really unique one because you're going to have two speakers up there. One of which, that he's been in the trenches with this stuff, right? He has seen the stuff that we sit behind this podcast and talk about. He has seen it work at the highest possible levels, but it's in the trenches. And he's going to be speaking from his world in the trenches. I'm going to be speaking from, that motivational business coach of his, and just how we took that journey together from A to Z to create the practice that he has today. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great workshop all about patient acquisition, from the time that you're doing your marketing to the time people call, how it all leads to an increase in same day starts, organic referrals and things like that, while reducing the amount of people you need. Something we're about with New Patient Group is, as you grow, we want you to set your business up in a way where you need less. And there's going to be a podcast, and it's the cost versus investment exercise, something newer that we're starting to have our clients go through one by one. And it's going to be a podcast that I'm going to have all of you do out there. And it's a very important exercise. What you'll find is when you do it, most of the things you write down end up in the cost aisle. We want that reversed. We want everything you're doing to end up in the investment aisle. There's a big difference in those. So we're going to be talking a little bit at that workshop about that. And it's a future podcast that we're going to wrap around to get people thinking differently there. So really good workshop. The next day, Saturday, so when the AAO starts, so recently Dental Monitoring has hired me as a speaker, and plan on speaking a little bit on Saturday for Dental Monitoring. We'll have a New Patient Group booth there. Come by and see us. We'll also have a Right Chat booth. So the Right Chat and New Patient Group booth will be together. So make sure to come by and see the New Patient Group and Right Chat family. Say hi to us if you are there. I've had a lot of messages from podcast listeners saying that they're excited to see me, meet me for the first time. So looking forward to that. Then we've got the OAO, so the Ontario Association of Orthodontics, which is basically the AAO here. I am the keynote there, so I'll be kicking off that event. I think it's 2.5-3 hours on stage. That is coming in June. Looking forward to that. We'll also have a booth, a New Patient Group and Right Chat booth there. We don't do a lot of booths. We almost always do one if I am speaking at the event. So we'll have one there. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you. A lot of Canadian followers. So I'm looking forward to coming up and seeing a lot of you that I haven't met before. We've done well in Canada. When we first got our very first client a long time ago, his name was Edward Murdoch. Shout out to you, man. Miss you guys. And, they're avid podcast listeners. We've have a great relationship. We've done a lot of great things together. You go into a different country, if you will, and you're kind of like, okay, are things going to work? And they've actually worked as good, if not better, up in Canada. It's been a real treat to work with practices there. So really looking forward to that. Then Synergy. So a big company in healthcare has invited me to be their keynote. That is back in Miami. And that is I need to look. I'm not going to have the dates right. You can check it out on our website when we update the dates, but that comes maybe in September, right in there. I better find out the date so I don't miss it. I don't have it in front of me. So we're there. And then NISO, who a lot of you are familiar with, has invited me to speak at their event as well. So A lot of really good things. The end of April, the end of this month, we have a national webinar with OrthoFi. It's going to be around the biggest mistakes made when presenting money, targeted obviously at TCs, but it's still a good practice hole to really see kind of some eye-opening things that a lot of consultants in this industry trying to teach sales that have no sales training. They have just what they learned while working inside a practice. A lot of consultants teach the mistakes that I'm going to be talking about. So they're actively teaching treatment coordinators how to present money in a way that are psychological mistakes. They're sales mistakes. And that's what we're going to be talking about and really giving you some ideas to present money at a really high level. So a lot of good things. We got a lot of national webinars with dental monitoring coming up. Things are good, very, very blessed. My whole thing, individually is when you get to speak on stage, all it means is you get to help more people. So it's not about us. It's about all of you. And I take it very seriously and very passionate about making sure every time we speak, you hear new stuff. You hear updated stuff maybe you've heard before, but maybe we speak about it in a different way that finally gets you to do it. So very passionate about that. Looking forward to it for all these great things coming up in 2022. So the 5 keys to thriving in a down economy. Some of these are going to be, I guess, reiterate some of the things that if you're an avid podcast listener that I've talked about sporadically throughout a bunch of different episodes. Some of these I really haven't touched on. Maybe made a comment here or there, but these really kind of work in harmony, if you will, to tell a story as a business owner. And look, as a business owner, and this is where healthcare can sometimes feel like they're on this island by themselves, when in reality, every business owner in some form or fashion deals with the same stuff. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, if you're a restaurant owner, an orthodontist, dentist, etc. If you own a business, we all deal with the same stuff, maybe in a little bit different way, but we still deal with the same stuff. If you're a business owner, you're in the trenches. We all are in the trenches together, regardless of sometimes what you may think. You are not on an island by yourself. So these are things that I pride myself in doing. If our company is not doing as well as it could. And of course, a lot of times you sit behind the microphone, you speak on stage, you come across like everything's perfect with your companies. And it's not the case at all. It's really what you do with your company as you have this bumpy, windy road, because everything is not linear. Everything is not a little bit better every day for your whole life. It's a bumpy, winding road, and you've got to maximize the ups and minimize the downs. So in a down economy, obviously that is a down. So you try to minimize that. And in many cases, these things I'm talking about today can actually help you dominate and have record growth while the economy is not good. And the very first one is avoiding what I believe is one of the biggest leadership mistakes there is. And it's a very common trap that people can fall into when you're a business owner. Office managers listening, OMs out there as well, or any leadership team member, is a very common mistake made, is you are jamming numbers down people's throats during down economic times. Something like this, and many of you can relate to what I'm about to say. And this is the very first one of the 5, as I said. You think about the amount of times you spend talking to your team about production goals and new patient goals and collection goals and conversion goals. Things like that. It's a constant number bombardment. And this is not just in healthcare. This goes, say you're an Invisalign rep out there and you have all of these quotas being thrown at you left and right by the uppers with Align Technology. And I'm just using you guys as an example. There's thousands of companies. And when things are slower, whether it be down economic times, consumer confidence isn't as strong, so there's not as much cash to spend. Taxes are raised, so you're giving it to the IRS as opposed to having it more to your pocket to choose to where you want to distribute that into the economy. Whatever the reasoning is, it's a common trap to focus even more on the numbers during down times and jam those down people's throat. Let me give you an example. And a lot of you fall into this trap. Not the new patient group people. Some of the newer clients, you're probably still in this, but this is what we do. Business owner talks to the office manager, make believe names. Hey, Mary, we got to get the numbers up. We're struggling. I see that we're down 25% compared to this month last year, March 2022 or April 2022 compared to last year. The phone isn't ringing as much. Our new patient numbers are down. Our production's down. We've got to focus on this. I want you to talk to the team. All right. Then Mary goes and talks to the team and says, hey, guys, doctors talking about it, or business owners talking about it. Numbers are down. We're struggling. We've got to get this up, guys. We got to get this up. Meanwhile, that is the vibe around the whole office, thinking somehow that conversation is actually going to help. And there's lots of problems with this kind of thinking because you can't control it. As an example, Susie, your TC, cannot control that the economy is down. She cannot control that the phone is not ringing, right? Your receptionist cannot control that the economy is down. Your receptionist cannot control the fact that when the economy is down, more people are calling and saying, hey, how much do you charge for Invisalign? As an example, which still happens when the economy is good, but not as much because people are tighter. So therefore they shop even more than they already would have if the economy was better. And meanwhile, the leadership team is just constantly saying, we need to grow. We've got to get the phone to ring. The team members are watching you stress out. And there's going to be podcasts about this. New patient group clients in our university platform or office automated platform. You're going to have more courses around effective crisis leadership, how to lead during crisis, long story short. And I wouldn't call a slower economy a crisis, but it fits into the mold, right? When things aren't great, how do you lead your team? And it's so easy as a business owner to fall into this trap. This like we talk about, it's the lead versus lag measures, right? A lag measure is something you cannot control. A lead measure is something you can control. I'm going to give some more examples here momentarily, but 99% of business owners and leadership team members jam numbers down people's throats that they cannot control. And this is, I call it the MBA versus entrepreneur way of looking at numbers. Now, there's nothing wrong with the way MBAs look at numbers. My cousin's CFO of American Airlines. We talk about this all the time, right? You need to know the lag measures. You need to know your production, your collections, your new patients, how many no-shows you had last. You need to know those things, right? Otherwise, you have no metrics on whether or not they're getting better. The problem is all of those metrics are your weight scale. And there's a podcast many seasons ago that talk about employee performance indicators is what we talk about. These are the times that, and I'm going to focus because this is another thing. This is going to lead me into the second one. But the very first one is don't jam numbers down people's throats that they cannot control. Be a leader. Let your team know, hey, look, the economy's down. This is what we're going to do this week. We're going to block some time. We're going to sit together and we're going to talk about the areas of the practice we think can get better. And I'm going to praise all of you for helping my business during down economic times, maybe working some extra hours, maybe opening on a Saturday for an Invisalign Day as an example, when we otherwise would be closed. Whatever it may be. The last thing you want to do during down economic times when you're feeling stress is articulate that to your team. You're the leader. It'd be like, okay, I'm up flying you around in my airplane. A lot of you know that that's what I like to do. And something going wrong with the airplane and me freaking out. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh, Jesus. Oh, ha! And how would you think the passengers would feel? Do you think they would feel comforted? Or do you think they would be scared out of their mind, stressed, etc.? Obviously, the second one. It's exactly what happens inside your business. When you feel tight, the last thing you want to do is make your hourly employee, the people that look to you for guidance, feel tight. The opposite should happen. And you can make the argument, you've got to be proactive and things like that to where whenever things like this do happen, you know exactly what to do. I'm not really going to talk about that today. That's a separate podcast in itself and why we're always teaching. Look, just because it's good today, remember the first episode this year. It's why you always have to be scared because tomorrow it may all go down the toilet. So you have to be prepared and thinking as if it's going down the toilet all the time. You can never just sit back, relax, and be good and be disconnected from your business. And all those are upcoming podcasts this year, next year, whenever, but they're all on the table. You've got to avoid jamming numbers down people's throats. which leads me to the second one. And they're intertwined, but they're different at the same time. And it was what I was leading into a little bit ago. While on one hand, you want to avoid jamming numbers down people's throats. The other hand is it's okay to do it as long as you're focused on things people can control. You going up, like I said, and saying Judy to a TC, your conversion's terrible. We got to get this up. Go into your team and saying our production's down from last year's, the same month last year. What are we doing? We got to get this up. Office manager, go into somebody about collections. You sitting down with a team complaining that you don't have as many new patients. And then you wonder, when you look at your numbers, you don't even know where it's less, meaning are they less coming from Google? Are they less coming from maybe you did a pay-per-click, deal on Facebook? Are they less from your organic referrals? Where are they less? But all of those things you cannot control. And this is the mini version of the EPI and statistics we teach here at New Patient Group, is opening your mind to a whole other world of data. And that's where it's the MBA versus the entrepreneur. MBAs, like I was diving into earlier, MBAs are very, very good at analyzing the known. Very good at analyzing the known. What entrepreneurs are very good at is analyzing the unknown. And there's two different languages there, and you need them both. When you combine what the MBA's view of business is, combined with what an entrepreneur's view of business is, boy, oh boy, do you have the best worlds in a skyrocket. When you take it away from each other, it doesn't work as well because you have to know the known. But here's the unknown, and it's a very simple thing. And it's why whenever you are really struggling, it's a great way to dive into your numbers in a different way. Right? If you're struggling, and let's say you're struggling with referrals, you say, look, new patients are down. Let me go look at my data and see where patients are hearing from us, right? And if you look at March or April of last year, and let's say in March, you got 15 new patients from patient referrals. This is an example. This year, you looked at the numbers from March, and let's say you got 8. All right. Now, first of all, the baseline, right? There's your MBA data analysis of your 7 less from the same categories you were before. You've got your finger on it. All right. Here's what you should also know, and what you should be able to go into a dashboard that basically shows you why. All right. As an example, and this is one of the things we teach with New Patient Group, is last year in March, when you got the 15 patient referrals, maybe your team asked for referrals a total of 80 times, 80, right? I'm making up the number. This year, when you look at your 7 or 8 patient referrals, you saw the drop, but you also can see the drop. Maybe your team only asked for 20. So you had a 60 number drop on how many were asked for. Now that is the focus from a leadership standpoint, because that is a controllable stat achieved through training and accountability that you can put your finger on to say, look, this is why it's less. We stopped asking, which, by the way, everybody, a simple trick. If you want 5-star reviews, you want patient referrals, you want video testimonials, you have to ask. And it sounds so simple on the surface. But I can guarantee you, all of you listening out there, minus most of the New Patient Group clients, are sitting there going, like, okay, Joe, our patient walks through the door. He's probably not even asked once, let alone 2 or 3 times for a video testimonial or 5-star review or a patient referral, right? Because you have to train hourly employees on being comfortable with the verbiage. And then you've got to repetitively at your weekly meeting just get oversight on whether or not it's happening. And how you do is through these EPIs, is tracking data and inputting it into our platform or somewhere that shows these touch points, because that's what you focus on. If the numbers are less, there's a reason. Now, it could be a slow economy, but what I have found is a slow economy is just an excuse. It's a cop-out. I talk to the New Patient Group team all the time. Like, I don't want to hear it's a down economy and that's why Dr. So-and-so is struggling. No, we're well beyond that. Our clients are well beyond those things. It doesn't mean that it can't affect them. But it certainly is going to affect them less. because I always want to be ahead of the game, tracking the right data. And this is what happens. In that example, that patient referral example that I just talked to you about, it's not a down economy that got you less patient referrals. It's the fact that your team stopped asking for them. And if you don't have visibility of that, and that isn't a discussion point and a role play topic consistently in your organization, you will never maximize your success. Now, that's one example. Another example is now these are the known, right? The known opportunities. Another example is maybe your new patient numbers are down and you look at your no-shows, right? And your no-shows, your new patient no-shows this March were 6, and your new patient no-shows last March were 2. Well, just between patient referrals and your no-shows, that's, I don't know, I think we're up to 12. I remember the exact numbers. We're already up to 12 less new patients. And it has really nothing to do with your marketing or the economy at all. Now, an important stat that we track with new patient no-shows are things like our doctor welcome video. Like, is the wow factor stuff, the unexpected uniqueness experience stuff, is it being sent out prior to them coming in? Because we know new patient group out there, the ones that have been with us a long time, your no-shows are almost nothing. Why? It's not because of ridiculous automated text reminders. It's because of the experience things that you carry out prior to them coming in. The eye openers that nobody else is doing. But see, that's the data. If you have visibility of it, those are the kind of things that you can look at and go, look, our no-shows are down or up because we're not doing this stuff over here that we were before. Right? How many, Janice, your receptionist. Okay, this happens in a down economy, guys. Now, orthodontists, dentists, et cetera, out there, you're all dealing in a commoditized industry now where people shop. But when the economy's slower, they shop more for obvious reasons. They have less cash, so they're going to be more picky with it. You've really got to wow them to get them to spend more with you than less with somebody else. Now, that's always the case, but it's even more the case in a down economy. So you ask Janice, the receptionist, hey, we got to get more new patients, Janice. Well, what she's not telling you is that she lost 3 in March that said, how much do you charge for fill in the blank? Couldn't overcome it. Do you take my insurance? No, we don't. Couldn't overcome it because people are more picky. Hey, I'm just looking around. Can you tell me more about what your first appointment looks like? She answers the question, bores the caller to death. They don't see any additional value. They say, let me think about it, and they walk. See, Janice isn't coming to you and saying, hey, doctor, guess what? I dropped 2 new patients today on the phone. I couldn't overcome their objections. No, those are opportunities that are lost that you never know about, which is why the receptionist should be tracking that. Right? So your conversion this month was 6 out of 10. Which means you have a 60% new patient call conversion, which, by the way, is a little less than the national average in orthodontics as it stands right now. That means over 30 out of every 100 calls you receive, your receptionist drops. Meanwhile, you have no visibility of it. But see, this is the data that if the receptionist was entering that data on a daily basis and you could see pie charts and bar graphs, see, these are the things that open up your eyes to where, look, they're not economy related. They're training related. They're plug and leaky hole related. Now, these are the stats that it's okay to talk to your team about. I can see it now with new patient group. I'm making this up, but this would be a conversation. I guess last year, our numbers are down, and let's just take kind of what I've worked on so far. Our numbers are down, but that's okay, right? As long as we're carrying out the client experience and we're helping our clients, organically our numbers are going to come back up. So I'm cool with it. But let's look at ourselves. Let's look inside the doors. And a lot of the things we're doing a lot of things right. I'm proud of you. But because of the numbers a little down right now, I want to dig into maybe some leaky holes that we can fix. Last year we got 6 new clients in March, and they all came from referrals, right? Well, this year we don't have any. Well, one of the things I've noticed looking at tracking data, these EPIs, these lead versus lag measures, is we're not asking as much, right? So we've got to get asking more. Let's really put a campaign together about asking our clients, and now let's practice this. And I'm going to hold everybody accountable for getting every one of you, I want 1 new client per employee on this meeting today by the end of March. Like, there's a leadership conversation. Accountability, expectations, vision, and I'm also not harping on the numbers. It's okay to bring them up. Hey, our numbers are down. Your organization needs to know that. I'm not telling a lie to them and say, hey, the numbers are great. No, tell them. But that's where it ends. Don't talk about production and revenue and all this stuff that nobody can control. And by the way, really, you're the only one that benefits as it goes up. I get there's bonuses and things like that, but the hourly employee gets massively turned off when you talk numbers all the time. So really what this is here is a lead versus lag measure discussion. Is during a down economy or when your practice is slower, focus less on the lags and more on the leads, right? Focus less on the weight scale and more on reducing calories and getting into the gym. That's what you should be tracking. That's what you should be focused on, right? Hey, Janice, that weight scale's not going down. I got it. And think of this. This is what all of you do, most of you, all the time in your organizations when you talk about numbers. Hey, Janice, the weight scale's not going down. I need you to lose that weight. I want to see that scale. Like, we haven't hit our weight scale goal for the month. That's what all of you do. Now, obviously, you're not using the weight scale terminology, but that's all lag measures, production, collections, all that stuff. You've got to give clear guidance. You have to have a vision as the business owner, as the CEO. So the conversation would be, guys, the weight scale, it's not coming down. All right. It's happening slower than I expected. So this is what I want to do. Let's dive into, okay, it looks like we haven't been in the gym as much, as we were. We got to set a refocus to get back in that gym. And we've got to set a refocus on reducing our calorie intake and eating healthier. Right. And as you're focused on that, guess what? The weight scale drops. Now, obviously you want the opposite effect in your practice. You want the numbers to go up, but you get the analogy. People's focus is on the wrong numbers. And then they take that focus and they jam it down their people's throat. It's like the baseball coach that's like yelling at the player. You got to level out your swing. You got to hit the baseball. Your average has got to get up. You got to do this. Come on. But giving no guidance on how that player is going to accomplish what you want. There's a loop in your swing, Joey. You got to fix it. No, Joey, you have a loop in your swing, buddy. So this is what we're going to do. Here's the plan. Here's what I've noticed, right? Your weight was a little bit off balance. Okay. You're dragging your hands through the zone. These are some things I've noticed. So we're going to work on that together, and it's going to improve your swing. And you're going to hit better, which means you're going to make more contact, which means your average is going to go up, which means you're going to be a better player, which means the next contract you sign, you're going to make more money. That's exactly what all this is with new patient groups. Exactly what we do for employees. Sometimes they don't like it because we're there to hold them accountable, push them, train them, pull them, hold them, repetition, all of these things. But inevitably, the ones who really get it, it skyrockets their career. And all that's off topic. But you get the point, is when you've got to stop jamming numbers down people's throat, especially when the practice is hurting, because it's such an easy trap as a business owner to get into. And then everyone's running around with their heads cut off because there's no plan. The other piece to that is business owners out there, when the economy's down or you're feeling slow, whatever aggression and just how much you're focused on your business at that point, that's how I want you when things are good. See, the problem is you're reactive, and I'm not going to get into that today. It's not one of the five. Well, the problem is if you wait until the numbers are slower to have that kind of focus, it's too late because you've waited to feel the pain. This is what I've talked about all the time as business owners. You cannot wait until you feel the pain to become engaged with your business. You have to be ahead of it. Just like a pilot, you've got to be 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of the airplane or you're dead. It's the same thing as a business owner. Now, you're not dead, but you may not have food on the table. You've got to be ahead of the business. When things are good, that's when you need to be as focused as you are when things are bad. And I've got another one, and that leads me into what I'm going to talk about right now, is avoiding rash decisions. See, if you're focused on the wrong numbers and then what hits the fan and you stall out, you start to decline, whatever, the phone isn't ringing as much as you'd like, you're not converting, all of a sudden your production stinks, whatever it may be, or all the above. Humans tend to make rash decisions. Like, oh my God, we've got to cancel everything. We've got to go in another direction. We've got to start doing all this. We've got to dump money in here. You go away from consistency. You go away from your vision, and you throw it all in the trash for stats that you can't even control. And that's the part, and the reason why I did the previous two, because we're on the third one now, avoiding rash decisions. Avoiding rash decisions. Boy, say that, say that a few times fast. I am not going to do that on the air. I am tempted right now to say avoid rash decisions 5 times fast, but I'm not going to do it. Because if you're focused on the wrong numbers and you don't even know, let's say the new patient calls are lower, but you don't even know why. You don't know if it's, less people coming from Google, if the patient referrals are down. You don't even know. All of a sudden in your mind, you're like, okay, we need to get more new calls. Let's do everything different. Let's get rid of the plan. Let's stop executing on the vision. And let's just make this RAS decision. We'll hire this company over here. They'll come and do some pay-per-click for us, put a Band-Aid on it, and just all of a sudden everything will be okay. And as a business owner, I get it. I've been there with multiple companies. Everything doesn't always go as you want. Everybody is on their own very unique journey, which is why whenever you reach out for marketing, business coaching, team training, and I know most of you know this, but if you're very new to the podcast, those 3 things New Patient Group does all under one roof. And there's a reason for it. Because one of them doesn't work without the other. 2 of them doesn't work without the other one. They're all intertwined for all kinds of reasons. But whenever you reach out to a company to help you in a specific area, or all of those, they have to have the ability to customize their plan around what you want out of your life and your business. It's not a one size fits all. Now, there's foundational items that work for everybody, but the reality is if you want something different than the other person, there has to be 2 plans of action. And you've got to have that vision. You've got to stick with it. Just when times are tougher, it's so easy as humans to just throw it in the trash. So easy. And it's really the difference between the ones that achieve their vision versus ones that are constantly spinning their wheels because they're always trying something new. Now, trying things new is good as long as you stick with it and implement it and then keep it from going backwards. But RAS decisions, and it's another thing the team does not want to see their leader do. And this is something I'm an innovator by heart. I'm constantly trying to come up with new ideas. And this is a fault of mine. It's not that we don't stick with stuff, but I am constantly trying to think of new stuff. And that can easily overtake something else from working because you haven't given it enough time to work. I've seen it with a lot of you out there that hired 25 consultants before you hired New Patient Group. And then all of a sudden, New Patient Group sticks in your organization and it allows real change to happen, but then stick. And it is a blessing to the hourly employee because they're no longer like, oh my God, here we go again. Doctor went to an event, hired this next consultant. It's going to be here 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And they're going to want us to change everything. Everything's going to go right down the toilet when they leave. Plus we're going to lose half the team that they trained. Everything's a cluster. Oh my God. And you never want that inside your organization. So this goes back, really all of this to leadership, is avoid jamming numbers down people's throats that they can't control anyway. It doesn't motivate them. Do focus on numbers that are controllable, the lead measures. And if you're not tracking those as an organization, you really should. I somewhat joke when I say this. It's like 1980 called. They wanted their data tracking back. But the reality is the orthophies, the Gages of the world, who I have the utmost respect for. Obviously, I'm a speaker for orthophi. Relationship with Gage. Their systems are fantastic, but their systems show you lag measures, numbers that you need to know, but they don't tell you why they're there. If your conversion's at 70%, you need to know that. If your same day cash is, you're averaging a $1,200 down payment at the time they sign the contract, you need to know that. But that doesn't tell you why the number's there. So it's so easy. Economy's down, so therefore the down payment is down. Well, sure, that may have something to do with it, but it does not tell the whole story. Most likely, it's still because of how your TC is presenting the case to begin with. The economy's down, our phones aren't ringing as much. Okay, maybe it has something to do with the economy. It's definitely a factor. But when you tell yourself that becomes your story. Your story defines yourself, and it's almost like you're helpless. The reality is your numbers are down. Maybe your YouTube production has gone down. You're not doing as many videos. Maybe, again, it's the referrals have gone down. Maybe your no-shows are up. And you've got to know that data. You've got to focus on it. And those are things I want you focusing on with the team. Do not focus on lag measures. It doesn't mean that you can't discuss it, but it cannot be a culture and a vibe of, oh my God, we're down. We've really got to get more starts today, guys. We've got to hit our production goal. And that's how most of you talk out there, office managers, doctors. It's literally like telling people the weight scale is not reducing. We need you to lose weight. Your loop in your baseball swing is not getting fixed. I need you to fix the loop in your swing without giving guidance on any of it. And the hourly employee just feels stuck. They have a job to do. They're getting the next patient, bring them back. Meanwhile, everyone, the leadership team that's supposed to be leaders are more hounders, pounding this number game in their head. You've got to have a plan if you're going to bring it up, which is why focusing on the lead measures is always a better way to go. Always. Because they're controllable. You can leave with a plan of action. Betty, I need you to ask at least 3 to 5 patients a day, every day for the next 30 days. That is my expectation from you. We are going to role play that together at our weekly meetings. And you're going to record how many times a day you are asking patients. And that's what I was talking about just a minute ago. The 1980s call, they wanted their data tracking because the gauges and ortho5s of the world that give you such beautiful data still can't track the why behind it. They can't because you can't automate these things. These are things that you and your team have to commit to tracking accurately, because if it's crap in, it's crap out. You've got to accurately track it. So you have a world to know, okay, this month our receptionist dropped 3 new patient phone calls that you otherwise never would have known about. This month we asked 20% of our patients for referrals instead of 80%. Of course your referrals are going to be down if that's the case. It has nothing to do with the economy. That's why this data is so important. And then when you have your focus on the right numbers, it helps you avoid the RAS decisions that I was talking about most recently as the number 3. Because it's so easy to do. I feel that my new patients are down. That's what the data is telling me. We got to do something about it. Let's go spend money here. Our production is down. We got to go spend some money we got to go do marketing. And that's going to lead me into number 4, really back on the avoid the RAS decisions. Leader, business owner. You got to be calm. It's something that I've learned. I was one of the worst. Again, towards the front end, I said, when you speak, you sound like you're all perfect with this stuff. Nothing could be further from the truth. For me, it is an ongoing journey, man. An ongoing journey. RAS decisions, big problem I've always had. Now, a lot of times they're not rash decisions. They're innovative. And there is a difference. But the RAS decisions is a fault of mine. I get it. I know it. When you're calm, even if a team member screws up, if you're calm, if you show confidence, if you praise them, give them clear guidance on the expectations moving forward, and then they don't do it, fire them. But if you do all those things, or if you don't do any of those things, you just say, look, we got to get our production up. You got to get your conversion up, Janice TC. But there's no vision, there's no guidance, there's no plan. You got to fire yourself. And that's what happens so many times. And this is where you have to look inside during a down economy. And you've got to find ways. One of the biggest money makers in your practice, especially when the economy's down, is the first one I'm going to talk about when I say look inside. Now, when I say look inside, I am partly saying look in the mirror. But that's really not the premise of this one. This one is, there are so many. One of the things I love about orthodontics, dental practices as well, really any kind of any higher ticket item, plastic surgeons, is there's so much money just sitting there waiting to be had that are leaky holes that people do not realize. Take a couple, for example. And I see this as one of the number one, if not number one traits of the highest producing new patient group practices is pending treatment follow-up. Janice comes in today. Let's say it's for herself. Let's say it's a $6,000 Invisalign case as an example. Janice walks. These are the things, by the way, being a speaker, consultant for Align Technology, these are things that I try to get through to them all the time, where these are examples where it's not about Invisalign. If you want to grow Invisalign, because our practices that do Invisalign grow more than they, it's unbelievable how much they grow their Invisalign. And it's not because, and yeah, new patient group clients, you know this, we don't come in and jam Invisalign down your throat. We believe in it. We don't come at whatever your business model is. We're going to help you make that most successful, while also teaching you how to be more innovative. And if you want to do Invisalign, great. If you don't, it's our job to still grow you. But the Invisalign practices out there, this is why it's not about Invisalign if you want to be the top provider in the nation. It's about all this other stuff. Because if I come in today and I say, all right, I'm looking, and you say, look, Brian, $6,000 Invisalign, that's what's going to be. And I say, let me think about it. Do you know how many, if you're open 5 years as a practice, it's insane how much that adds up. So how you're following up with patients, and it is a sales process. If you are scared of that word, I'm sorry. But the reality is, if they are shopping, which they are, and they get quotes from 2, 3, 4, 5 practices, which they do, the one that follows up the best and also had the best experience when they were there to begin with is going to win that customer, even if that practice happens to be more expensive than the others. It's a reality. Are there exceptions? Of course, there always are, but the vast majority of the time, what I am saying is accurate. And oftentimes you have TCs that say, I'm too busy, and maybe they follow up a couple times. What about the ones that were in here 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 14 months ago, 2 years ago? Some of you may out there going, well, are they really still a candidate? Absolutely. And I see it with new patient group. We stay in touch with doctors consistently via email, text, things like that, because you never know when the right time is. Timing is everything. And it's the same way with the patients that are walking through your doors. And really the point is not to get in, this will be, but pending treatment is a podcast and a 3-hour presentation on its own, like how to do it and things like that. But that is stuff you've got to track. You've got to know how much money is sitting in your charts just waiting to be had, to where if you just went out and got 10% of it every calendar year, you're going to grow $100,000, $200,000. But you have to know the number, and you have to have a vision and guidance of a system. You have to set expectations to your team on how you're going to follow that system. And when you do, it's unbelievable. And you just have to go have a go-getter. Like we have some practices where, it's not even the system. A lot of times is you can have the best system and not have a go-getter. The system stinks. It's not because of the system. It's because you don't have a go-getter. Like you're better off having a go-getter with no system, no scripts, nothing. They just refuse to fail. And those are the TCs that are absolutely priceless. The ones that go out and get business that are sitting in your charts. People that were recently there, but all the way back a year, 2+ years ago, because a lot of those people still haven't bought. And if you have a good pending treatment system inside practices, companies like Invisalign, they would be twice the size, because it happens all the time that people walk and they don't go buy anywhere. A year goes by, 2 years go by, and whatever, maybe the TC sticker shocked them whenever they were in. They're like, you know what, this just isn't for me. All of a sudden their tire blows. They've got to fix that. They've got a kid, something happens. And the point is life happens and they never buy anywhere. And if there's no follow-up procedure to keep the topic on mind, you don't hit them when the time is otherwise right. Next thing you know, you have somebody that never starts. Or maybe they eventually go to another practice that does some other type of clear aligner. They buy that and boom, Invisalign has a lost opportunity they never even know about. You can't put your finger on it. And this is a whole podcast in itself about not being able to put your finger on what's really killing you, because it happens. It's the lost opportunities you don't know about as a company that are actually killing your business. The ones you do know about, you can fix those. But the ones that you don't know about, it's hard to fix, which is why you have to assume they're happening. And that's where the best of the best entrepreneurs know they're happening. I love the question. Hey, let us know, what you do, and we'll let you know what practices need you. I'm like, every business needs us. Every business has lost opportunities via every consumer touch point throughout the journey. The problem is most of them you can't put your finger on. They're missing, and this is the other one. Everybody during a down economy is you have to know what you don't know. All of you out there are missing new patient calls every single month. And when people are shopping, they don't call back. And that's the majority of what, they'll leave a message. No, they won't. And even if they do, it's still a bad representation of your brand, and they still have already called somewhere else. So it's another lost opportunity you don't know about. And that's why, like, so many of you are signing up for Right Chat. It's like a no-brainer, because we're going to answer those for you, schedule them, remote into your scheduling software, schedule them, and speak as if we're sitting at your front desk. I have a story about that when we get to the fifth way, that you've got to thrive. You've got to execute. You've got to do these things during down economic times. And you have to do these things. The beauty of these is all being proactive. I want you to do these things before you have down times. The most important time to do these things are when things are going great. When your new patient numbers are where you want them or above, it's so easy to relax. It's so easy to nod at your weekly meeting. We don't have to practice that today. We won't look at those numbers, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, they slowly but surely drop off. And then they're amplified whenever it's a down economy. See, that's the thing. Whenever they drop off, I don't care what the economy is, they're going to hurt you, just maybe not as bad. Then when people are tight on cash, all of it is it's like taking steroids, right? They're all just amplified. They're all bigger. They become bigger problems. Invisalign Days or clear aligner days, whatever you do, have an Invisalign day or a couple of them in a month. If you're struggling, look inside your books and say, hey, look, let's go out. And all of you know, I'm for you all being the most expensive in town. As long as you know how to articulate the value non-clinically, it will always benefit you as a practice. The challenge for many of you that aren't new patient group clients is you're trusting an hourly employee to know how to sell, and they don't have sales skills. You're trusting an hourly employee to know how to present, what verbiage to use, psychology, knowing how to do it, when to do it, why to do it, all of these things. That's what you're trusting your team to do every day. Yet you don't get them trained by experts in those industries or in those areas, excuse me. So therefore, when you go to charge higher prices, it doesn't work as well as it otherwise would. But the Invisalign days, look in your charts, put together an Invisalign day and say, look, Mrs. Jones, you're in here 6 months ago. This is the price we talked about, the investment we talked about. We're having a really cool Invisalign day. Look, you need to schedule on this date or this date. And if you come in that day, if you schedule now, if you come in that day, we're going to give you $1,000 off. Right? You all know, like I said, that I'm not for cheap prices. However, you also can't be stubborn about it. Right? If right now you said, look, we're struggling, our new patient numbers are down, our conversion's down, maybe both, what can we do to jumpstart it? And I told you that you could have 2 Invisalign days this month, next month, whatever it may be, and you could get 15 starts from it. If you gave $1,000 off, would you do it? And the answer is, of course, or at least it should be, of course, because there's your jolt. And that's looking within. It's looking within. Look at your no-shows right now. If you had, if you're having a new patient no-show problem, this is a podcast in itself, but unfortunately, a lot of practices blame the new patient. The problem with the no-show, it's not the new patient. Of course, they shouldn't do it, but when they're shopping 5 places, that's what happens. You have to look at your processes. So improve that area, cut your no-shows by 50%, which means you have 50% more people going through the door. If you're at a 70% conversion, do the math. These are the little things by looking inside on how you can jumpstart things in your practice. Even if you're just looking to jumpstart it during a good economy, maybe you're just flatline for whatever reason. These are always the things that will jumpstart you the fastest, because where all of you are thinking. Now, I say all of you, the new patient group clients, right chat clients listening to this, a lot of the reps, we're kind of our underground cult following, if you will. You're not looking at it this way. This is a reiteration of a lot of things you've been taught that are important for you to be taught repetitively, because it's so easy to go outside your doors. Marketing, what can we do? We got to get the phone ringing more. Payperclick ads. We got to get the phone ringing more. Oh my gosh, team, we're not getting as many new patients. Production's down. I can't pay the bills. Blah, blah, blah. Bonuses are going to suffer. Blah, blah, blah. And you're thinking outside. Now, are there things outside that can help you? Of course. Like right now, new patient group, we're strategizing. David Martin, shout out to you, man. As a company, finding rock star people is priceless. It's invaluable, but it's hard. We have a rock star in David Martin. And he's put together, many of you know that I'm adamantly against pay-per-click on Google, because Google will suck your bank account dry. Now, the one good thing about pay-per-click with AdWords on Google is you can actually analyze what people are actually searching in a given area. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. But it will suck your bank account dry. It will drive you people that want discounted prices. But there's a way to do pay-per-click over on Facebook and Instagram where we now can target, okay, here's a mom that has 2 teenage kids. This is the income level they're at. And then we can launch some pay-per-click around it that actually bring in those type people that fit your business model. Now, that kind of looking outside your doors, that works. Because if your phones ring slower and you want a jolt that's quick, there's an example. And that's an example like I talked about at the front end of the podcast about how we're always trying to innovate. And I certainly don't have all the ideas. That's why I want a great team around me. I'm not a yes guy. I want people saying, look, no, there's a better way. I want people to challenge me. And David Martin's come up with a good way. Social media, Haley, all the social media people, shout out to you with the new patient group team. You're awesome. And this is another great way that we're going to help our clients, get through down times, but also just do even better during the good times. If you had a great month last year and your conversion, which most of the new patient group clientele, their conversion's 80, 95%. Imagine closing 90%, you had 40 new patients in March. Well, imagine closing 90%, you had 53 patients in March. As long as those extra 13 new patients were fitting into your business model. That's why I like this pay-per-click. But that's another thing. Yes, that's looking outside your doors, but if you do it, you've got to be smart. And that's where the RAS Decisions comes in. Meaning, don't just do it because I say it. Don't just do it because you feel. If you know the numbers and you say, look, our online leads have dropped, then that makes sense. If you look at the numbers and you say your organic referrals have dropped, well, it still makes sense for the short term while you focus on getting your organic referrals to go back up. Because if you're going to get organic referrals, those are free. It's free to ask. I would much rather you do that. But that also can take a little bit more time. So it's a little bit of a Band-Aid, if you will. But these are all kinds of things. So many people want to look out immediately when the phone's not ringing. Even if they think so many things are going well internally, there's still so many things you can do internally, like these Invisalign days. Hit charts. How many people are you following up with? If your numbers are down, maybe last year you were getting 5% back through the door on your pending treatment list. Maybe this year it's 2%. But if you don't know that number, of course you're going to blame the phone isn't ringing as much or your online leads, et cetera. It's just what humans do. It's so easy for us to look there. So easy. So you've got to avoid numbers that just don't matter, or they're not going to motivate, and they're not going to fix anything. It's the first one we talked about. The things that as business owners we like to go to. Production's down, team, we got to do something. Collections down, that. The second one, know the real numbers that matter, the lead measures, and really hunker down and focus on those in difficult times. Because it's going to tell you the real story. A slow economy is not the real story. It compounds whatever the real story is. Right? A good economy with a lot of free cash can hide what the real problem is. Oh, we did amazing last month. What do we need help for? Right? Because if you function that exact same way, and all of a sudden it's a slow economy and people are shopping an additional 3 practices to the 2 they shopped when the economy was good, all of a sudden everything's got to be better. And if you know those real numbers, then you can avoid the rash decisions, these little split. We've got to do this. We've got to do this. We got to fix this. And then look inside. That's number 4. Look inside for all these holes. Look at your no-shows. How can you fix that to get another couple through the door? How can you plug the fact that you're missing, and all of you out there, you're missing new patient phone calls. You understand that, right? And for those of you who have joined Right Chat, props to you, and you have seen how much it works. You are the innovators. You are not the laggards. You are the innovators that go, look, it's a number I don't know, but as an entrepreneur, I'm assuming it's happening. And boom, you've fixed it. All of you. All of you know what it's done for your company. So plug the hole on people, on the new patient calls you're missing. Plug the hole on the ones your receptionists are answering but unable to convert. Plug the hole on your team not asking for as many referrals as they were maybe a year ago at this time. Plug the hole on your pending treatment follow-up. Getting people that didn't buy today, how do you keep calling them? And if you want to call, say it, hounding them, whatever terminology you want to use, sometimes that's what you got to do. Now, you don't be a car salesman about it. But the reality is email, text, phone calls, they're all needed. They're all needed. Consistently. Where do I find the time? Well, that's why outsourcing a lot of stuff, not for pending treatment, but outsourcing a lot of stuff like Right Chat to answer all your new patient calls, OrthoFi, clear aligners, all dental monitoring, all of these things, because now they open up time for you to focus on growing your business instead of being inundated, stuck inside your practice. And I see it with the people that follow up best to get people back through the doors. They are outsourcing operations the most because now you have time. Invisalign Days, all these things. Look inside, guys. So easy to look out. Look inward. It's all right there in front of you. $100,000 to $300,000 of growth sitting right there in front of you. Which leads me to number 5. I got a cool story to tell you. It's a really neat story. Number 5 is execution. Today's podcast, when I thought about doing it, I was thinking about having execution be the only one, because inevitably you've got to execute on all the things I'm talking about. Otherwise it's useless. You hear us talk so much about the consumer journey, from how you run the business to the time people shop, so how you do your marketing, to the time they go, all right, I like that practice, I'm going to pick up the phone and call them, or send an online inquiry, whatever it may be, that initial contact. What happens when you hang up the phone? What happens during that time before they show up? What happens when they show up? To what happens in your digital workflow? To what happens with clear aligner growth? To what happens in the TC and doctor exam? To what happens when you present money? To what happens if they buy from you and they move into your existing patient experience, or they don't buy from you and they go into your pending treatment follow-up? What happens to your observations patients, the ones that want to buy, but clinically, or whether maybe they do or don't want to buy, but they're not clinically ready, and you say, come back in 8 months, which is another one, by the way, when it says look internally. How are you handling your obs patients? We got some good podcasts coming up about that. So it's really, really, really important to understand this stuff. Look inside. And now execution. All of those touch points I just talked about, when times are tough economically, they all become more important. They're all important no matter when and what the economy is doing, no matter what the state of your business is. All of those lead to you having record growth every year. And understand that when your numbers are down, those touch points are not as good as they should be. I don't care what the economy is, but again, the economy, when it's negative, only compounds the situation. And I'm going to give you an example. So the other day, my wife is a mystery caller for for new patient group. And I'm in the office, doors are open. I hear her making her calls out in the kitchen. So obviously my ear opens up, and she always comes in and gives me a report of what things look like. And she made 4 of them. She came in. I go, okay, Kristen, let me know. She goes, look, 3 of them were atrocious. Now, those 3 were newer clients, thankfully, but they were bad. And they were honestly, they weren't bad. They're just like every other call. Like if you called 1,000 practices, all of you out there that think you're unique, the problem is you're not showcasing it. Because if you mystery call your own practice, you'll see what I'm talking about. And these calls were just blah, no value. They didn't follow any of the new patient group teachings. But then she goes, here's a practice. And I'm just going to use your name, man. You listen, it was Richard Portalupe's practice. Say, man. And by the way, everybody, I didn't say it on the front end. This is awesome. Our Doctor Mastermind is this week. So our big Doctor Mastermind group is going to be going out over to Hellsberg wine country in California. Got docs flying in from all over the country that are in the new patient group mastermind. And that's awesome. You want to talk about a forward-thinking clinical, think tank, business and marketing think tank. It's just awesome. I love seeing the faces, just the interaction. They're all becoming clients. Shout out to all of you. It's just a freaking awesome family, man. I love it. I love it. And you are so far ahead of everybody else. There's no words to describe it, because we get to see a lot of practices, and it's amazing what you're doing. So shout out to all of you. And Richard Portalupe, thank you, and thank you to Eric Field, the Chief Operational Officer of New Patient Group, for really finalizing the details and the agenda and working on dinners and things like that. Helps me tremendously. So we'll see you this week. So Richard Portalupe, Eric, or Kristen is like, wow, they knocked it out of the park. Make sure to give them thanks or props. So I go into our Dr. Mastermind. I'm like, at Richard Portalupe, because we host it in our private Slack channels. And I'm like, hey, docs, give a shout out to Richard Portalupe, blah, 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 blah. He did amazing. And next morning, Brenna, who is our lead new patient phone call coach with New Patient Group, and she's a Right Chat agent. She got promoted from a Right Chat agent to being a coach with New Patient Group because she's so good, but she still answers some Right Chat calls. She texts me. She goes, hey, it wasn't Richard Portalupe's practice that answered. That was me. And at first I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, it was Right Chat. So, how Right Chat is designed is to make sure that when a phone call, we answer all of your new patient calls, or we answer the ones you miss. 2 different models. Pricing's the same. But the idea is we answer as if we're sitting at your front desk. It is not an answering service. It is an extension of your team. And she answered it, knocked it out of the park. Kristen never even knew it was Right Chat that answered, right? Because she called Richard Portalupe's practice, and she knows I have Right Chat. She knows all about it. Never even crossed her mind. So the model worked perfectly. It also shed light that would have been a new patient phone call that Richard Portalupe's practice would have missed and never even known about it. Going back to plug in holes that you don't know about, because the more you do, the less you ever go down as a company, especially during a down economic time, looking within. But the point of this is not Right Chat. The point of it is its execution. The only employee that my wife mystery called that knocked it out of the park was mine, our employee. And you as a leader of your organization have to understand these things and understand that it's how your team is executing along this journey that's going to determine whether or not someone gives you their money or not, and whether or not they even schedule to begin with and then show up, because those are two different things. Scheduling is one thing, but if your receptionist isn't good enough to put more value, guess what? They no-show you. Why? Because they schedule somewhere else and go there because they saw more value. That's what's happening. That's what happens in a commoditized world. So you have to put an even greater focus during down economic times on how these little things are executed. New patient group clients, this is more to you than any of you. Because when people walk through your door as a new patient, how that greeting goes when the economy's awesome and people have 10,000 extra spending dollars, are these things important? Heck yeah, they're important. But if you don't execute them that well, you can get away with it. Why? Because they have money to spend. They're probably shopping less. They're still shopping, but they're shopping less. So these touch points now that you can get away with during better economic times, you can't when the economy's slower. So again, looking within, you've got to execute and realize, are new patients being greeted the moment they walk through the door without sitting? Because if they're not, you're just like every other business they've ever walked into. And if you try to charge more, they're not going to do it. How'd the new patient call go? How are the welcome videos that we teach? The welcome tour, is it a waste of everyone's time, or is it a real value proposition sales tour that moves the value needle forward, moving them closer to a purchase? Because there's a difference. A welcome tour is a waste of everyone's time, yours and the patient. They don't want one. But they do want a value proposition tour, and the two are very, very different. How's money being presented? The last podcast in March, the 80-20 rule. Are you following that? All of these touch points, how high level are they actually? Because it's going to lead not only to an increased conversion with you still charging more in down economic times, they're also going to lead to those organic referrals when you ask. And these 5 things you've got to focus on all the time. Because if you're ahead of it when the economy dips, you do not feel the effects of it. And you have what a lot of the new patient group clients are having, that I said, is having your best month ever. Meanwhile, other people are like, I can't get my phone to ring, or production's down. And they're just talking about that over and over and over again, instead of being a leader and a visionary and having a plan ready when all that happens. You have to focus on the right data. You have to communicate properly to your team. You've got to avoid rash decisions. You've got to constantly look inside for those holes that you can plug quickly to grow. And you have to make sure your team is executing all of these touch points. They matter always, but when the economy is slower, they matter even more. I hope you enjoyed today. I'm passionate about the 5 things we talked today. I take these to heart as a leader, and I want you all to, because I know they're going to help you not only minimize the downs, but boy, oh boy, if you're doing these things when the economy's good and your practice is thriving, you're going to thrive even more. You're going to, instead of growing 15%, you're going to grow 30, that kind of more. Okay. Take these things to heart. Reach out to us. Let New Patient Group help your practice. Let Right Chat handle your new patient phone calls. Don't sit around. They both will make a huge difference for your practice. New Patient Group and Right Chat family out there, I love you. I appreciate your support. It means the world to be able to sit back and help your practice grow, your personal life thrive. We'll see all of you at those events, and doctors will see you at the New Patient Group Mastermind event coming up in Hellsburg and Wine Country this week. Until then, we'll talk to everybody. We'll see you for the next episode next month. Bye-bye.